How's everyone doing today? It's your boy JJ Domination, and today we're going to go ahead and do our NFL Week 13 recap. We're going to be talking about the Sunday and the Monday night games because we already did the Thanksgiving breakdown, which, was a little bit of a longer one. We did go into detail about a lot of those games. Granted, because I gave myself a lot of time to really discuss those games, but we're going to go ahead and start off with the Tennessee Titans at the Indianapolis Colts. By the way, I'm going to have to go back and check, but I think I either went 10-6 or 11-5 in the predictions. I'm going to go back and check. I'll have it updated by the time next week's predictions video comes out. I'll have it updated. But let's go ahead and start off with the Titans at the Colts. Derrick Henry, man, he's looking like one of the best running backs, just period, like in the game. Like, he's not even like that special as a receiver out of the backfield, but the way that he runs the football, he runs angry, he runs in space pretty well, and those bigger backs, they are able to absorb a lot of contact. Like, if you need a yard, they'll get you a yard. It's that type of thing. Derrick Henry did have a fumble early on in this game, but he didn't really allow it to dictate how the rest of his day was going to go. He just went on without his game, and he went on without, on his business or whatever, and he did what he had to do. He took care of business throughout the rest of the game. This was a huge win for Tennessee, though. They needed to stay afloat with Houston. Obviously they're going to play the Houston Texans twice, once in Week 15 and once in Week 17. So these two teams are going to play each other twice in the span of 3 weeks, and who knows, man, they might be playing for the division. But the thing with Tennessee is their schedule is a little tough. They do have to go to Oakland to play the Raiders. The Raiders the last 2 weeks have gotten their asses kicked, and I'm pretty sure there's a little bit of a sense of urgency for Oakland because, that sixth spot is obviously wide open in the AFC wildcard picture. And then, of course, you got to face the New Orleans Saints, who are probably going to be trying to get a first-round bye. I believe Week 16 is when you got to play them, and then, of course, you play the Texans for the division. That's going to be huge. Like, those two games are probably going to be bigger than the Saints and the Raiders matchup because getting that 2-0 edge on the Houston Texans will definitely help your case come seeding, come playoff time or whatever. So that's going to be very interesting. Jacoby Brissett, though, he didn't necessarily have a great game. I believe he had a couple of turnovers. Not a good week for him. He did play without Marlon Mack, T.Y. Hilton, and Eric Ebron. But over the last few weeks, he's kind of been in that situation. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, I'll cut him a little bit of slack. Because Tennessee, really wasn't blowing this team away or anything. Like, they were all, into it up until the blocked field goal. The first, blocked kick from Adam Vinatieri. Like, they were right in the game the entire time until that point, so it's not like they got blown out or anything. Brissett and company and the defense, to a degree, kept this team in it. It's not like they were getting blown out. They were in it until basically the first kick got blocked from Vinatieri, who I feel bad for, man. I mean, that's just tough. The Titans blocked the 2 kicks. But Tannehill, I do want to talk about Ryan Tannehill for a moment. He's played very well, and this isn't like a Kyle Allen situation where he's had a couple of, rough games and he's had some bad moments, but he's still slinging it and playing well. Ryan Tannehill legitimately has been playing well. He really hasn't had like an off game per se, and to be honest, he's been playing well. And yeah, it's my ESPN fantasy app going off over there. Don't know why, but I have notifications turned off for that, but it still does it sometimes. But anyway, Ryan Tannehill, he's 5-1 as a starter, and he's given this team a lot of juice. Like, I feel like there's a little bit more of a intermediate to vertical, deep passing game, and it's refreshing to see. It's something that the Titans have definitely been missing. They have the playmakers, but no offense to Marcus Mariota, it feels like we rip on him all the time when we talk about the Titans, but he really wasn't getting the ball down the field to his playmakers. Like, A.J. Brown can play, and I was very confident in that when I was doing my wide receiver assessments. Like, yeah, him and DK Metcalf were teammates, and you could argue at times that A.J. Brown was the better receiver at Ole Miss at certain points. He just offers a lot more versatility, whereas DK Metcalf is a freak of nature, and he's going to be a great player someday. And of course, we'll talk about him a little bit later, obviously. But good win for Tennessee. That's all I can really say for the Colts. Desperation is starting to kick in, it feels like. Their playoff chances may be closing because you have the Raiders also fighting for a playoff spot. And, you don't have the tiebreaker in that scenario. The Steelers are playing better football at the moment. So it's looking pretty tough for the Indianapolis Colts. But it's probably a good thing. Maybe they do something with that draft pick. All right, here's the game that everyone wants to talk about, the quote-unquote Super Bowl preview. According to some, the 49ers at the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens did win 20-17. Yes, it took a late game field goal. It took a game winner, basically. And I've been seeing a lot of weird questions about this game, like, oh, who looked more impressive? Who's the better team and who are you most impressed with? And the answer is the same. It's the same answer for all three. It's Baltimore, Baltimore, and Baltimore. I don't know why this is a question. Baltimore is the better team. Yes, it took a last-second field goal to win this game. But the big difference here, and we're going to talk about it throughout this game recap, the big difference is Baltimore knows who they are. And not only do they not know who they are, they don't go away from who they are no matter the situation. Like, yes, obviously they're going to throw the football short to intermediate. Yeah, they're going to take a couple of deep shots. But when they are in situations where they can pick up the first down by running the football, they don't pass it. They run it, and they're going to let you know that they're running it, and you can't do shit to stop it. And that's the difference between Baltimore and San Francisco. So let's just go ahead and touch on that narrative real quick. There were 2 4th-and-1s in this game for San Francisco, and they passed in both situations. And I'm going to explain why I'm not a big fan of them throwing the football in either situation. So the first 4th-and-1 that we saw, I respect the decision to go for it. I don't blame them for going for it, but this team averages over 5 yards a carry, and Raheem Mostert has been having, or Raheem Mostert, whatever his name is, Raheem Mostert has been having an awesome game. He's been playing very well in the place of Matt Breida and Tevin Coleman, and you decide to throw it. Like, why? Like, I'm sick of these, analytically superior teams, trying to get cute. Line your guys up and run the fucking ball. It's 1 yard, people. It's 1 yard that you need. Go and power I with the best fullback in football. Give it to Raheem Mostert, who is averaging, 7-8 yards a carry this game, and give him the rock. How hard is it? Yeah, if you get stuffed, okay, yeah, that's the risk that you take, but that's probably a better decision for your football team than just passing the ball 4th-and-1, because the Ravens honestly were more prepared for the pass than they were the run. And then the only reason that drive continued was because of a little bullshit tic-tac penalty. And then the second 4th-and-1, which led to Baltimore driving down the field and kicking a game-winning field goal. You passed it again, and the team basically knew you were going to pass it because you did it last time in that scenario. And you just predictable. You got predictable at the wrong time. 4th-and-1 the very first time, you passed it, and then you do it again. If I'm a running football team and I average 5 to 6 yards a carry per rush, and it's 4th-and-1, and I have the best fullback in football, lead blocking, guess what the fuck I'm gonna do? Run the football. Stop me. I dare you to stop me. And that's the difference. Baltimore was able to do that. Yeah, I dare you to stop us. We have a 300-pound fullback. We have Lamar that can go get you a yard. We have Mark Ingram who could go get you a yard. Gus Edwards is no slouch either. He can go get you a yard. They know who the hell they are. And not only that, they stick to it no matter what. And that is what a great football team does. They know who they are, and they're not going to change unless the game plan warrants them to change. So now let's talk strictly about the game. Marcus Peters, this was the worst game he had as a Baltimore Raven. It was rough. Deebo Samuel, of course, making the most out of all his touches and all his reps. He had a rushing attempt, got good yardage. He did catch a few balls in this game. One was for a touchdown over Marcus Peters, who was having a rough game, as we talked about. Lamar Jackson had a good pass to Mark Andrews for a touchdown early. Statistically, did he have the greatest game? No, he had like a little over 100 yards passing and 100 yards rushing, but he did score 2 touchdowns. And I don't really care about your yardage. You know, Jared Goff had like 400 yards against the Cardinals, and he only had 2 touchdowns. Lamar had probably, I don't know, 220 total yards at the end of it, or 212 total yards or something. He also had 2 touchdowns. To me, I'm all about scoring. You know, I don't give a damn about your yards. Can you go get in the end zone? That's what I care about. So when people are like, oh, I want to see Lamar pass for 300 yards or 400 yards. Yeah, that's not what he does. That's not who he is. He's going to get in the end zone. They're going to run the football. On 4th and 1, they're not going to get cute and throw it. They're going to run it because that is who they are. That is what they do. So have at it. Let's see. We did talk about Raheem Mostert. He had a great game himself. I wish they would have gave him a try on some of those 4th down runs. Let's see. There was a great strip fumble from Marcel Harris, I think was the DB's name. Lamar Jackson fumbled for the first time this year. Kind of surprising that he only has 1 fumble lost this year, considering he does run a lot. And Marcel Harris made a great play on it. Some people are calling it fluky, of a fumble. Some people are like, oh, Lamar Jackson's being careless. I think, in my opinion, it was just a great play by the DB. I mean, he just stole the ball, and that is something you rarely see. But another thing in this game, the 49ers fall to the 5th seed. And we'll talk more about that when we talk about the Minnesota Vikings and the Seattle Seahawks. But the better team won, in my opinion. You could have played this game inside of a dome. You could have probably played it in San Francisco, and I think Baltimore would win. That's my personal opinion. If you think San Francisco is a better team, there's nothing wrong with that. They're a very good team. My only issue is, number one, Jimmy G, it just felt like they didn't make enough plays, with Garoppolo. And I know he had more passing yards than Lamar Jackson. Okay, he didn't make the play. So I don't want to hear it. And number 2, to me, I feel like sloppy conditions, it benefited the Ravens, a running team. The 49ers are also a really good rushing team, so I don't really get the excuse there. To me, Baltimore's just a better team. They're both great teams, but the 49ers are now the 5th seed. So have fun. They're going to obliterate Dallas or Philadelphia if they stay at the 5th seed, by the way. It's not even close. Jets at Bengals, obviously we do. Andy Dalton is better than freaking Ryan Finley. I would hope so. Andy Dalton making his return to the starting lineup. They win 22-6. And man, that was embarrassing for the Jets. How do you beat the shit out of the Raiders and then turn around and practically get blown out by the Bengals? How does that happen? Anyway, there was a drop touchdown pass as well by C.J. Uzomah. They could have even ran up the score more, but they didn't because there was a drop touchdown pass by the Bengals tight end. Auden Tate looked very good. So did Tyler Boyd. 2 receivers really been balling out, and they look that much better with Andy Dalton. Let's see here. The Jets offense, it was really Robbie Anderson, and we'll see from there. To me, I know they got down 22-6, but really the game was close for a while, and I was really surprised that this team didn't go to Le'Veon Bell more. To me, they should have. There's a familiarity factor there. Le'Veon, of course, with Pittsburgh, used to play the Bengals twice a year. He knows what they can do. He knows what the Bengals like to do, and for me, that should have been your game plan. Run your offense through Sam Darnold and Le'Veon Bell. To me, that's what they should have done, but they didn't. Yeah, it is what it is. This was a little side joke. So me and Fred used to have this little side joke where we would say holding in the end zone is a safety, and it is because there was a hold on Kelvin Beachum, the left tackle for the Jets, former Pittsburgh Steeler. There was a holding call in the end zone, and holding in the end zone as a safety. I don't know why it became our inside joke, me and Fred. Fred's a friend of mine, by the way, if you don't know who that is. And I don't know why it became an inside joke, but I don't know. It's funny. So I had to throw that in there for the podcast or the weekly recap, whatever. Shout out to my friend Fred. Miss you, buddy. Let's see here. And then Carlos Dunlap, man. Damn, he was disruptive this game. Forcing a lot of throwaways, getting some pressure. Like, Carlos Dunlap is one of these older veteran players who's still pretty good. Like, he's not a Pro Bowler, but he's like a good, serviceable guy to have on your team. And he's a guy that could potentially get traded or probably a roster. I don't know. It's weird. Not roster bubble, but it's weird because he's like an older guy. I don't know what the Bengals plan on doing with him, but he's a very, he's still a good player in his career. But this was the first game we really seen him explode and like play very well. And we're just like, oh, damn. Yeah, believe it or not, he can still play, guys. Let's go ahead and talk about this Browns at Steelers game. I'm going to just address the elephant in the room. Obviously, Freddie Kitchens wearing the Pittsburgh Started It t-shirt. Now, if Odell wore the shirt, I think it would be a little bit bigger of a deal. It's still a big deal. But I feel like if Odell would have done that, it would have been a little bit bigger of a deal. People would be back on that, oh, he's a diva shit. You know what I'm saying? So, Freddie Kitchens wears it. Everyone in Cleveland, Ohio knows who the hell their coach is. And that's Freddie Kitchens, right? And Freddie Kitchens went to the movie theater and wore the shirt. And I don't really give a damn about his jacket. Apparently, he wore like a zip-up jacket. He had it unzipped, and that's how people knew about the shirt. To be honest, I don't really care. That's an irrelevant detail for me. Apparently his daughter made the t-shirt. That's cool. Your daughter supporting, the dad who's a head coach. There's nothing wrong with that, right? The only problem is, for me, you knew it was going to get attention, and you decided to wear it out in public anyway. That's the only issue I have. Like, yeah, if you're wearing it around the house, and you win the game, and you're like, oh yeah, my daughter made this shirt for me Saturday or Friday, we finished it. You could have done some little shady shit like that on Instagram. That would have been okay, because now you swept the Pittsburgh Steelers, and, regardless of who's right or who's wrong in the Myles Garrett incident, like, I think that would have been more cooler if it were to play out like that. Like, you beat Pittsburgh, and then you have, like, a picture of you going to the movies in the Pittsburgh Started It shirt, because then at that point it's like, well, you backed it up. And now we're just going to take a little jab at our division rival. But no, you wore the shit before the game. And you basically fired yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, basically, if this season wasn't already a wash, you basically fired yourself. And, I guess we can go ahead and segue into the game. I just wanted to get that out of the way. Jarvis Landry had a pretty good game. He did play well. I think he had 6 catches, over 70 yards. Good game from him. Just doing what he does best. Made some really good catches. Pittsburgh's offense, by the way, did not have James Conner. They didn't have Juju. And they were playing with a backup center. Because remember, the Pouncey brother missed this game. And then James Washington, though, man, he played a hell of a game. He made some big catches in this game. It was just fun to see because, he's a good player. And it's weird because his college quarterback was Mason Rudolph, but yet Mason Rudolph and him just couldn't make these big plays, but yet him and Duck Hodges can. And Devlin Hodges did play well. He did have a bad interception later in the game, but compared to, if you're just looking at stats, he had better stats than Baker Mayfield. But of course, like, Hodges did make some big plays. Baker did some good things too, but that Steelers pass rush, TJ Watt, Bud Dupree, they've been playing very well. During the Pittsburgh winning ways and winning streak or whatever, and I feel like it hasn't really been talked about enough. But I do want to say for Odell, right? I know I made a little joke saying, oh, if Odell would have wore that shirt. Here's the thing, right? Odell needs to get the damn football. Like, I don't understand for the life of me, why does he have like 3 catches for 29 yards entering like the 4th quarter? Why? Why is that a thing? Why is Odell not getting going in this offense? And to me, that's a fireable offense. for Freddie Kitchens. How do you have all this talent? You have this like reputation for being an offensive guy. You were the offensive coordinator, you know, at the end of last year. Your offense was really good, and now you can't do shit. And you have all this talent. To me, that's a fireable offense in itself. You have Odell Beckham Jr., and you can't even get him going. Like, how? Like, I don't get it, man. But there was a moment in this game where I think Cleveland was lining up for a field goal, and instead they fake it and they do like a little drop kick and they down Pittsburgh, you know, all the way down inside their 10-yard line. To me, that's a smart move, you know, you in case you do miss the field goal. At the end of the day, you know, it is about field position, so I give Freddie Kitchens credit if that was his decision. You know, it is field position, and you created a takeaway. The problem is you turned it right back over, because Joe Hayden got an interception to seal the game. The former Cleveland Brown doing what he needed to do. Eagles at Dolphins. What the hell, Eagles? You know, like, I literally wrote in my notes, WTF, Eagles. You're the reason Dallas has a chance. You know, like, that's literally what I wrote down on my phone. And for real, like, this was a wasted opportunity. I get the Dolphins have nothing to play for, right? They could play spoiler on the entire league. But what the hell? You know, I guess we'll go ahead and segue to the players that look good. You know, Miles Sanders had a great game. Alshon Jeffrey had a great game. Let's see, Devontae Parker had like a freaking career game himself. And then Mike Gesicki, balling out again. You know, he was one of those players last week for the Dolphins. I said, you need to watch out for this guy's getting hot. He's starting to play well. And the other guy that I told you to watch out for was Adrian Colbert. So I'm going to talk about him for a second. Let's see. They had him playing a bunch of single high free safety. So in like these cover 3 looks, or, you know, the cover 1 looks, whatever, he was like the one safety back there. So he was playing a lot of traditional free safety. He looked fine. They didn't really throw it deep, and when they did, you know, he did get a pass breakup. You know, he almost got an interception as well, which, good to see that he's got some range. But he did give up a touchdown. Not really. It was zone coverage. He couldn't tackle Alshon Jeffrey, who is a bigger, more physical receiver, and yeah, he gave up the touchdown. You know, shit happens. What can I say? And another thing that I wrote down is you would think the Eagles' defensive line would dominate the game, but they really didn't. Like, yeah, they had some moments. They flashed a little bit, but they really didn't dominate and take over this game like you think they would. And they're supposed to have one of the best defensive lines in the league, and Miami really couldn't tell the difference between yours and, I don't know, Arizona. Like, just for example, it just doesn't make sense. Let's see here. Redskins at Panthers. Yeah, Miami won, by the way, 37-31. Washington ended up winning this game 29-22. And I do want to give Washington a ton of credit. They didn't allow Christian McCaffrey to be the reason why they lose. They wouldn't let Christian McCaffrey be the reason, you know, that they lose. And they weren't going to let him beat him single-handedly, basically. He did have his moments. He did get some receptions to inch closer down the field or whatever, but nothing too crazy. But, man, Darius Geis and Adrian Peterson had great games against this Carolina run defense, and their run defense really hasn't been good. And over the last month, I mean, it feels like everybody can run on them, like, effortlessly. Like, it's kind of scary, because they have, like, K'Wan Short, who's, you know, really good. Gerald McCoy, you know, he started out really good, hasn't really been as good the last, like, month of the season, or 6 weeks. And then it's just been question marks, because, you know, Dontari Poe, I think, is out for the year. Vernon Butler, a first-round bust that you drafted not too long ago. Like, it's just a bunch of question marks after, what's-his-face, K'Wan Short. Montez Sweat finally flashed this season in this game. Like, I think entering the game, like, he had, I don't know, like 2.5, 3 sacks or something. This was the first game where he actually looked like a consistent pass rusher. We've seen the flashes, but this game he looked really good. He did a really good job on the left tackle for Carolina, whose name escapes me because they rotate like every goddamn game. It's stressful. Let's see here. Another blocked kick in this game. I think Washington got their kicked block or something. I don't know, man. It's just a weird day. People were blocking kicks. You know, on Thanksgiving, people were recovering onside kicks. But Washington was getting good pressure throughout the game. It wasn't just a Montez Sweat thing. Like, they were getting good interior pressure. And when I was talking about the Redskins, like, at the beginning of the year, like, the one good thing they really have is their defensive line. Or maybe it wasn't at the beginning of the year, but I remember making a video about the Redskins, and I said that like, the best thing they have going for them is the defensive line, which it showed in this game. The Panthers recovered their own onside kick as well, and they almost won the game. And this is where we segue to Kyle Allen. Yes, he made some good plays. Yes, you know, he can run a little bit. You know, he's throwing some good short to intermediate passes. Like, yes, he has his moments. He had a chance to come back and win this game and be a hero, and they lost because his dumbass scrambled backwards like 20 yards, and then he fumbled, and they lost. You know, that's just kind of how the game went. And it's just really discouraging because, yes, Kyle Allen can play. I've seen that. Yes, he's had some bad games, but recently he's looked pretty good. But then he has these weird moments, man, where he just doesn't look as good. I'm not saying that he has to be perfect. He needs to play a damn near perfect game. But in crucial moments like that, you should not be scrambling 20 yards back to evade pressure. Just throw the ball away. Well, actually, no, that was 4th and goal. But the play before that, you know, you just, I don't know. If it ain't there, throw the ball away. There's no shame in it. Just do what you got to do. Dwayne Haskins actually had a pretty solid day as well. The run game definitely helps out. But Haskins did play much better this game. Good to see, you know, a guy that needs to build some confidence. First road victory of his young career, so... Or is it his first or his second? I can't remember. Anyway, Packers at Giants. You know, it was a bad first half for Green Bay. Really looked like dog shit in the first half, if you want my honest opinion. Their defense was making Danny Dimes look really good, and I'm not trying to take a shot at Danny Dimes, but he kind of went back down to earth after the first half. Like, he had 3 turnovers. He was feeling a lot of the pressure. Just not a good game from him overall. Freaking Kevin King is such a boom or bust player. It's very confusing with him. I don't understand Kevin King. Excuse me. Like, he got an interception this game. Right? Like, a good play. Awesome play. But he's given up a ton of yards. He gives up a ton of cushion. Like, he can't play zone coverage. Okay? I'm just going to say it. He can't. He's not very good at it. He has to either press you or play off-man coverage or something. He cannot play zone coverage. He's terrible. He gives up like 10 extra yards of cushion. And then when he is in press coverage, he bites on every goddamn double move. So if you're a good route runner and you're matched up against Kevin King, or even a decent route runner, there's a good chance you're going to score a touchdown. Because Kevin King he just bites on everything. Do want to give a shout out though to Alan Lazard for the Packers. Had 3 catches, had a touchdown, over 100 yards. He looked very good, you know, in this game. Granted, a lot of dudes look good against the Giants defense, but Alan Lazard really emerging for the Green Bay Packers. He might be the second best receiver they have, which isn't saying much because he was a practice squad player at the beginning of the season. Really discouraging if you're Geronimo Allison or Marquez Valdez-Scantling, because they were projected to be the number 2 and number 3 receiver, and they're not playing well. Gmo actually played okay. Marquez, yeah, Aaron Rodgers was chewing him out, man. He chewed him out. Like, what the hell? Why are you so fucking trash? Like, that's basically what was going through his mind. Devontae, good to see him getting back into the end zone again. You know, home sweet home. It's a good place to be. Familiar territory for him. Good to revisit that good place. And then Jamal Williams started doing a good job running the football late in the game as well, so good for him. And this is the 9th straight loss for the New York Giants. Really concerning, but who knows? Maybe they're tanking. Maybe they want Chase Young. Who knows? Bucks at Jaguars. Nick Foles played like dog shit. He got benched for Gardner Minshew. He's going to be starting next week. I mean, 3 games in, if you don't know what you have in Nick Foles, then oh well. Like, Nick Foles outside of Philadelphia is not a good quarterback. Like, we knew that. But the reasoning that I gave versus, like, reality, Jacksonville's looking at it like, okay, we're paying this dude a ton of money, so we got to see what we have in him. Alright, that's fair. I agree with that. You do need to see what you have in Nick Foles. You're paying him all this money, you might as well. He plays for 3 games. This offense really isn't getting going. They're not scoring a lot of points. And he gets benched. And I think that's a fair punishment for Nick Foles. Like, you're not scoring points. You're not giving this team any juice. You're not sparking anything. And to me, the team just seemed to play better with Minshew. I know they had that horrible game in London, but they just seemed to play much better with him in the lineup. And it showed. And what does this mean for Jacksonville moving forward with Gardner Minshew, and what's Nick Foles' future? I don't know. Wait and see approach on that one. Let's see. Devin White, he played very well, and so did Sean Murphy Bunting. The 2 defensive rookie players that Tampa Bay drafted in the 1st and 2nd round. They looked very good. Very encouraging stuff if you're a Bucs fan, that your 2 rookies are looking pretty good. So, good to see that, for sure. Shout out to both of those guys. The offensive line for Jacksonville could use some work. They got some good players. They're just a little bit older. Like, Brandon Linder's a little bit older. He might be actually their best offensive lineman. Andrew Norwell hasn't quite been as good as he was in Carolina, which is a little discouraging because he's making a lot of money. You have a young right tackle in Jawan Taylor. You just got to develop him. You can't give up on him after a season. Cam Robinson, though, this will be his 4th year. Like, he's just not been good at left tackle. You just might have to take the L on that one. Another Bama offensive lineman that just wasn't good. I feel like I've seen this before. They have some good ones, but I feel like I've seen this before, where they have a lot of bad ones. And for Tampa Bay's offense, they only had 2 touchdowns. They were both red zone rushing touchdowns. It's not like their offense really took over the game. Like, yeah, Jameis had a good stat line, but he didn't have any touchdowns. At least he didn't have any turnovers either, though. That's a good thing. But Rams and Cardinals, the Rams just bullied Arizona. That was terrible. Tampa Bay ended up beating Jacksonville, by the way. But damn, the Rams just bullied the Arizona Cardinals. It was 34-7. I picked Arizona to win. That was stupid, foolish on my part. But my reasoning was somewhat good. I thought it was over for the Rams. I thought that loss really sucked all the energy out of the building. In fact, it didn't. It just gave them more hope. And this was the worst game Kyler Murray had. I don't even have to watch the tape to know that. He got baited into a bad interception from Taylor Rapp. By the way, shout out to Taylor Rapp. He's been a stud as well. A player that I really liked in the draft, and so did a lot of other people. So, that's good to see. The whole Rams offense just balled out, Jared Goff balled out. He had over 400 yards and 2 TDs. Robert Woods had 13 catches, almost 200 yards. Tyler Higbee had both touchdowns on the game. And then, of course, no, he didn't. Tyler Higbee had 1 touchdown. And then Cooper Kupp had a great game as well. So just a good game for the passing offense of the Cardinals. Nothing really to say, or for the Rams, nothing really to say about the Cardinals. Just terrible game. Don't really have much to say. They're a bad football team. The Rams are much better than them. But I guess it's a learning curve, for Cliff Kingsbury, but we'll see. What game is next on the list? Raiders at Chiefs. What's happened to this Oakland passing offense the last 2 weeks? And also their scoring offense. Combined over the last 2 weeks, they've scored 12 points. And I think they've only scored one touchdown since the Cincinnati game in the second quarter. Like, that's not good. That's really not good, considering your defense is bad. And then Trevor Davis, you know, he ran into his own dude. He got cut. You know, once I seen he ran into his own dude, I was like, yeah, that's it. It's over for him. Patrick Mahomes threw a lot of interceptable passes this game as well. He tried to do a cross-body throw. I'm just like, yo, chill. Like, Favre could get away with it here and there. Even he couldn't get away with that all the time. Like, he literally lost 2 NFC championship games because he threw it across his body. Like, you gotta chill, man. I get it. We know you have all of the talent to make that play. You don't need to make that play. Just take what's there. But he did throw a lot of interceptable passes. He got bailed out by some penalties and some drops. You know, it is what it is. Their offense really didn't even play that well, and yet they were still able to put up like 40 points as a team, which is bizarre. Like, they ran the ball decently, but they really weren't throwing it like that. Not at a good rate. My guy Tyrann Mathieu, that man is everywhere making plays, man. Like, he's really the only thing they got on defense, you know. And Juan Thornhill also stepped up as well. And let's see, the Chiefs' defense, man, starting to be a little bit more opportunistic. You know, I thought their defense would definitely be better this year compared to last year. And I think we've seen signs of that and some progression. But they're just not good enough to win a Super Bowl. Like, their offense is going to have to go in to this month of December, and they're going to have to be on fire, you know, every week. Or else it's going to be tough. You know, like, not having a good defense will be the downfall of Kansas City unless their defense starts to get going later. Like, I like the fact that they're making plays. They're being very opportunistic, but we see what some of these defenses look like when they can't create takeaways. Miserable. I mean, look at the Packers defense against the 49ers, against the Chargers. Like, I know those are 2 outlier games where, like, they just got their ass kicked all around, but you see what their defense looks like when they can't make takeaways or create takeaways. They look miserable. And that's what the Chiefs' defense is. It's miserable when they can't create positive plays for their defense. And as for the Raiders, I really don't have anything to say. Their defense is trash. We knew that. Their offense, getting nothing going. We know that. But they did have a garbage time touchdown. I think Derek Carrier was the guy that had the touchdown. And then a blocked PAT return for 2. Something we haven't seen in a while. You know, it's cool. I like that stuff. Very entertaining. Except for when it happens with my team. That's not cool. Chargers at Browns. Or no, Chargers at Broncos. Whoa. Excuse me. Casey Hayward had a rough day, the corner for the Chargers. I'd consider him a top 10 corner in the league, but he had a rough day. Going up against Cortland Sutton, Sutton owned the matchup. He had 2 first quarter touchdowns. And then late in the game, Sutton drew a pass interference call on Casey Hayward. It was just a rough day. I do want to talk about Drew Lock's debut. It wasn't perfect, but he looked pretty good considering this is his first game, his first NFL action, and he's kind of viewed as a raw prospect, but he did show some really good things in this game. And I don't know what the future's going to be for him. You know, like, he's missed most of the year, and he's probably auditioning to keep a starting job potentially to see if he's going to be the guy. But it wouldn't be the worst idea in the world for Denver to go get another veteran quarterback and let Drew Lock develop for like a year or 2. Like, it wouldn't be the worst idea. Like, yeah, he's showing he can play, but if Denver truly thinks they can compete, they can probably be in the market for a Cam Newton. Or, I would say Phillip Rivers, but I don't know. Like, yeah, like, it's not impossible. They could definitely do something like that. Maybe they pay Ryan Tannehill, or they take a look at Bridgewater. You know, like, you could have a guy for a year or 2 while you develop Drew Lock. But Drew Lock definitely showed in this game that he can do some good things. He could play. And that's kind of all we really needed to see. I don't really have any takeaways for the Chargers. You know, Phillip Rivers had an interception. He didn't play as bad as he has the last couple of weeks, which is encouraging. But they didn't win this game, and the Chargers just find new ways to lose every week. So I kind of don't care, kind of don't want to talk about them because they're just not that good. And they're not interesting. They just find new ways to lose every single week. 2 more games left. Patriots at Texans. You know, my boy Deshaun Watson showed up to the building. Had a rough game against Baltimore 2 weeks ago. 2 primetime games back-to-back weeks. Thursday Night Football, he takes care of business. And then this game against New England, taking care of business. Had a really good game. And let's talk about some of the things Houston did pretty well. They had some really good play designs as well. Some good play-action plays. They got, what's his name? I think his name is Jordan Akins in the end zone, the tight end. Let's see. And then, Duke Johnson played well. Will Fuller had a couple of good catches. Kenny Stills had a good game. Hopkins was still able to do his thing against Stephon Gilmore. And this is something I hinted at in the prediction video, which this was my upset of the week, and I got it right. It's the fact that DeAndre Hopkins is a different animal from Amari Cooper. That's obvious. We know that, right? I think all football fans would agree. But Stephon Gilmore has looked good against everyone else, and Hopkins looked pretty good. So potentially, I'm not saying it is, but potentially we just saw the number 1 receiver against the number 1 corner. I'm not saying that either guy is number 1. I'm just saying that potentially that's what we just witnessed. It's just like the whole, we just witnessed the Super Bowl preview between the 49ers and the Ravens. Are we sure? Maybe, but I don't know. So yeah, it's not a dig at either team, but I do want to talk about Tom Brady for a second. And by the way, nice trick play for the Texans. They had a trick play where Duke Johnson gave the ball to Hopkins. Hopkins does a speed option to the outside with Watson. It was very innovative, very creative. I do want to talk about Tom Brady. He was caught on the sideline barking at his receivers. I don't really have a big deal with that. I don't really see the big issue there. It's not like it's Brady's fault. He can't make people catch the football. But the thing is, people used to bash Aaron Rodgers for that, chewing out his receivers. But when Tom Brady does it, it's okay. It's acceptable. To me, it's acceptable no matter who's doing it. So I made a little troll post on social media saying, "Oh, Tom Brady's a terrible leader," shaking my head. And people thought I was dead serious. No, I'm just being an asshole on the internet because everyone accuses Aaron Rodgers of being this prick because he chews out his wide receivers. Well, I think with that logic, Tom Brady's a prick. Why is he chewing out his wide receivers? You're the GOAT. Make it work. But let's be honest, it was a rough day for the receiving corps. Mohamed Sanu didn't know where the first down sticks were. Jacoby Myers had a tough going. If it wasn't Julian Edelman or James White, the offense just sucked. And Brady really didn't start playing well until to the 4th quarter, when the game was almost out of reach, and somehow it got back in the reach, and they get their garbage time touchdowns. Yeah, good for them. But like I said in my notes, I wrote this down. I said Tom Brady has every right to be frustrated at his receivers. But with that being said, let's not criticize other quarterbacks for being frustrated with just piss poor receiver play. To me, it's unfair if we criticize one and everyone else gets a free pass. That's unfair. I think everyone deserves the same amount of praise and criticism. That's how football should work. And finally, Vikings at Seahawks. The Vikings, they didn't look really that good against the run. Yeah, they had a couple of stuffs here and there, but when you run for over 200 yards against the Vikings defense, it's a little discouraging for Minnesota. Another thing that was discouraging was the fact that they lost. They did come back. They were down 17. They came back, made it a game. I texted to my friends in the NFL group chat that that extra point that Dan Bailey missed is going to come back and bite him, and sure enough, it did, because it came down to 4th and 3, and wasn't the best thrown football, but you also can't blame Kirk Cousins for Stephon Diggs having 3 or 4 drops. He caught a case of the Laquan Treadwell, And Treadwell actually had like a 58-yard touchdown, which is weird because like we're not used to him making plays, like just in general, fans in general. Rashad Penny, though, the last 2 games looking very impressive. He's starting to build some momentum, starting to look very good. You know, he was a first-round pick. A lot of people liked him as like an late second, early third round type of dude, but he gets drafted in the first round. You know, Seattle doing what they normally do, reaching on first-round talent, or reaching on these first-round picks, and he's actually starting to look really good. Does he look like a number 1 running back, you know, for a football team? Potentially, but he's very good for what Seattle needs him to be very good for, if that makes sense. And we talked about Stephon Diggs' drops. Dalvin Cook got hurt. I don't know the severity of his injury as of recording this. I'm sure by the time it goes up, something will come out. I hope he's okay. Like, I don't hope that someone's out for the year. I don't wish injury on any player. It sucks, to be honest, but especially because Dalvin Cook's been having a great season. Like, yeah, I have my little inside jokes about how I don't like Dalvin Cook and how I think he's a bitch, but let's be honest, like, the dude's having a great season, and I don't wish injury on anyone. But with that being said, Alexander Mattison came into the game, balled out, didn't miss a beat in the run game or in the receiving game. However, he ain't Dalvin Cook. You know, it ain't the same, man. Kirk Cousins, to me, played a very good game, but like I said, on that last offensive drive, just things weren't going as well as they were before. Like, Kirk Cousins helped bring this football team back, and that defense from Minnesota did get them a takeaway. You know, they did recover a fumble from DK Metcalf, and Cousins had a chance there to bring the team back. Things just didn't go quite as well for that team. Some bad drops from Stephon Diggs, like we talked about. Just bad timing for that, man. Tyler Lockett didn't have any catches, but we did see on film like he was getting double teamed a lot. They were trying to take him away and take him out of the game. He also apparently was playing with the flu. I give that man a lot of props. And you're probably thinking, oh, well, he didn't do shit. He had 0 catches. He didn't do shit. Actually, he did a lot by not having 0 catches. He took away an extra Vikings defender, which opened up the field for everyone else because you knew, okay, Tyler Lockett, we're going to put 2 guys on him at all times. He is not going to beat us. So with 2 defenders being dedicated to 1 player, that opens up everything else. Josh Gordon, we saw him do a little bit. DK Metcalf had a game. David Moore had a 60-yard touchdown reception. Rashad Penny had a receiving touchdown. Like, you think that Tyler Lockett didn't do anything because on the stat sheet, 0 catches, 0 yards. Like, he didn't do a damn thing. But he did, without even having to catch a pass. And to me, that's the most underrated thing that's not being discussed by anyone on TV or any old podcaster. Like, no one's going to talk about that. But I will, because it's very under the radar. And Russ showed up in that second half. And big implications after the game. Seattle's actually the 2 seed. The Saints get the 1 seed because they already clinched the division. The Seahawks get the 2nd seed. Minnesota gets the 6th seed. And now Green Bay can go 1-1 with the Vikings potentially and still win the division. Like, yeah, that's how crazy this is because they have a better division record, and the Vikings are down a game and a tiebreaker. So the Vikings, or the Packers, I should say, could still win the division and lose to the Vikings. Like, because of Seattle winning this game, that was very important because it opens up different avenues for the Packers to win a division and lose to the Vikings potentially. You know, even if they're not good enough to beat them the second time. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. Good luck to your teams next week, and peace out.